Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Gebo the Shaman, and yeah, I'm here today to kind of clear up some miscommunication, some misinformation about my friends, which are the ETs, the aliens as people call them. People love to call them, ooh, the scary aliens, right? Well, I mean, it's, sorry guys. So yeah, there's a lot of, misconceptions, miscommunications about what extraterrestrial beings really are. And to me, they are my friends, you know? Second. They're my friends. I'm gonna put on my accoutrements since I forgot to do that already. They're our friends. So, if anybody has, talked crap about your friend before, you know how I feel. Uh, you know, you have a good friend and somebody says, oh yeah, she abducts people. Really? No, she doesn't. Now, her friend across the street, or her neighbor across the street likes to dress up as her and, go abduct people. So that's what's really going on. I know that's a kind of a weird way to put it, but it's true. So whenever we think about aliens, what is the initial assumption about aliens? Now I know people call them different things. They call them the ETs, the aliens, the extraterrestrial beings, the greys, the tall whites, the mantis beings, the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, the this, the that, the this, the that. And so I wanted to kind of clear up some assumptions, some false assumptions. So, the first thing, the biggest thing that I hear from people is that ETs are, oh, there's good ETs and there's bad ETs. Now, I can see why people have that false assumption, because in our world, in our existence, there are good humans, and there are bad humans, right? Well, the bad humans, they just had maybe they grew up in a crappy childhood, or were abused or some crap like that. Granted, that's not an excuse for their bad behavior. Now, there are also, like, predatory humans, like psychopaths and narcissists and this and that. And that's because they have, this behavior is a result of a mental illness. And why do we call it a mental illness? Because it is abnormal. So, I can tell you that our ET friends, they are not mentally ill. It is impossible for them to be mentally ill, to be psychopathic, to be hurtful or damaging in any way. And you will not know this fact unless you personally experience them. And I provide plenty of ways to personally interact with extraterrestrial beings on this channel. You can search around the channel, you can go to Stephen Greer, CE5, Close Encounter close encounters of the fifth kind, that's human-initiated contact. And so instead of sitting on your ass wondering, I wonder, are aliens bad? Why don't you get up off your ass and go find out for yourself? Now, a lot of times, people with an innate fear, oh God, I don't know, this fear, this anxiety about contacting anything that is outside of you, that is unknown, unfamiliar. I get it. You're gonna have some fear. That's okay. You just do it anyway. And a lot of people will... So here's the thing. So some people are they have these, delusions. They have, oh God, they'll say that the aliens or the ETs are communicating one thing when they're actually not. So it's easy to conflate your own personal thoughts and feelings with what is coming through that communication. So the aliens, the ETs, I call them ETs because aliens are something totally different. So the ETs might be sending you this beautiful wave of loving energy, right? You might experience like a wave of energy coming into your body through your heart center. That's how they like to communicate, through the heart, through the soul, because there's a star portal in our heart center. That's where the soul comes through. Okay, so energetically there's that portal there. So they like to, show up. They like to put energy into that portal, expand it, and it might feel like a pressure on your chest, or maybe it's hard to breathe, but when they send that energy, you can breathe fine. It's, you're not going to not be able to breathe. You can breathe fine. So, I'm just telling you so that way you know what to expect when you contact them. So, alright, so let's begin with this. So, the assumption that there's good and bad aliens, or good and bad ETs, right? Well, how it works is, at their level of existence, if they wanted to, they are very powerful beings. They can eliminate us in 1 second with one thought. They don't even have to, throw a meteorite at us. They could just vaporize us. Vaporize the whole planet if they wanted to. But they don't do that. So, this whole thing about good aliens, bad aliens, well, let me just say, we only have good and bad on this planet. There's good people, there's bad people. Aliens do not have mental illnesses. They don't have, where they, are having any kind of negative thoughts. And the reason for this is because you have to understand something about them being multidimensional beings. And when I say multidimensional, right? What do you think about that? Is that, multiple dimensions, is multiple versions of Earth, or multiple universes, or multiple timelines, or multiple realities? A dimension is none of those things. A dimension is up, down, forward, backward, left, and right. That is a dimension. that now we operate in the fourth dimension. This is why everybody's talking about, the spiritual community is talking about the fifth dimension, because we have the three dimensions of time and space, length, width, height, depth, and we have like, well, that's length or whatever. So we have those three dimensions: forward, backward, up and down, left and right. And then we're moving through the fourth dimension of time. So you have this box, right? This three-dimensional box, and this three-dimensional box moves in the fourth dimension. This is what we have as, what we experience as linear time. Now time can move move both ways. And the thing about time is it can be interfaced with by the fifth dimension. So if somebody was, like, for example, in the second dimension, they couldn't have access to the third dimension, but we, as the second dimension, can take that second dimension, we can interact with it and move it and do all kinds of things. But so that means that fifth dimensional beings can operate in different times and different spaces. They can be everywhere and anywhere they want to. And the other thing, there's a spiritual component with dimensions, which means that if you're on a higher dimension, that means you're more conscious. That means you're connected more to a higher consciousness. Now, at that level, at that higher level, conscious beings understand that, oh, if I want to punch this guy in the face for cutting me off in traffic, then I'm simultaneously harming myself. Because it's just like, we're all connected. So they experience themselves as connected to everything. And so if you harm your, like a body, if you harm your foot, your hand's gonna hurt. Or if you harm your leg, your head's gonna hurt. It's not just locally isolated. It's throughout the whole bit of consciousness. You can't just do something bad to one individual and make them suffer. Them suffering is causing all of consciousness to then suffer. So, you want to have your, you want to get off on evil aliens? Okay, go ahead, but just know you have the right to be wrong. But just because you have a thought or a feeling or an assumption about something, that doesn't mean that you're automatically right about it. That's why when people try to argue with me all the time about this crap, I say, okay, well, you have a right to be wrong. You have every right to be wrong. But just because you have a thought or a feeling or an assumption or an emotion about something, you have this limited, concept that you're hanging on to. Well, abductions happen, so therefore there must be, evil aliens in the world. Well, you have to analyze that. Okay, let's talk about abductions now. So, it's not the ETs that are doing the abductions. It is the deep state. So, everybody in the neighborhood that says that you're close, like your best friend Sarah, is going around abducting everybody in the neighborhood. Going around abducting. Oh yeah, I saw her do it. It was 11 p.m. last night. She took Sandra into her basement and started cutting her up. Right? Well, Sarah, our good friend, has an alibi. She was with us the whole night, and I'm like, Really? You think that she's doing all this stuff? I'm like, no, that's not true. I know because she was with me, right? So it's not like people love to conflate ETs with like the deep state and what they're doing. So this goes into the weeds a bit, but essentially the deep state, or whatever you want to call it, the Illuminati, the dark forces, the evil elite, whatever, I don't care what you want to call them, George Soros, Larry Fink, Hillary Clinton, whatever. I don't care what name or label you want to put on them. Skull and Bones, Illuminati, the Jews. I don't freaking care what you want to call them. I call them the deep state. So there's elements that are hidden beneath the, like, okay, so we have the public facing government. This is the Congress, this is the Senate, this is the presidency, judicial branch, executive branch, and the legislative branch. That is the government as we know it. But there are people embedded in those areas of the government, and they are working behind the scenes to further their own personal agendas, like the mob. The mob would bribe politicians and whatever, do this and that. We know about lobbyists and what they do. Now there are people, especially in military and defense contracting, that have, you know, the ETs go hover above these nuclear sites, these nuclear missile silos. That's when that's where we first started hearing about them, because they didn't want us stupid ass monkeys to blow ourselves up, right? We don't want to destroy the whole world because they love us and they care about us. Thus their benevolence. And so they're like, what are you doing? Like, let's shut this thing off. So shut it off and we will, we'll have peace. That's what they were trying to signal. That's what they were trying to get us to do. But us, our, retarded brains, we saw that, oh, if aliens are here, then they must be, messing with us. They must be, like, trying to do something nefarious. Well, anyway, the deep state shot down an alien craft using scalar technology. You can go look that up on Stephen Greer's Disclosure Project Intelligence Archive, dpia.com, and look up, just search for scalar. That's all I'm gonna say. SCALR. And so they shoot down this craft. It comes crashing down. That's what we know as the Roswell incident. That's the first craft. There's a big old cover up. And then, of course, they say it's a weather balloon. But instead of, showing the public their findings and everything that there is to see about it, they take the craft and they go take it to their military base in Nevada, famously Area 51, and then they go reverse engineer those crafts. Every craft that they shoot down, they reverse engineer, and do that with it. They reverse engineer it, meaning you have this new foreign technology, right? You have something that you don't know how it works. It defies gravity. It can travel at 3,000 miles per hour through space and time and all this stuff. And it can cloak itself and do all this stuff. And you don't know how the hell it works, right? So, what they did is they took apart the pieces and they experimented, they studied them, they tried to you know, with the parts and pieces that they had, they tried to replicate that and put together like a you know, like a replica of their own, using their own stuff. So, and now we have, you know, now we have human-made UFOs that go fly around and they abduct people, and you have even, like, they replicate what the ETs look like. So, you know, or even they might even come up with a scarier, kind of a scarier version of the ETs in order to freak people out and scare them and frighten them. And instead of doing what the ETs do when they show up with your permission, which is sending you a lot of love, the humans will show up and they'll, you know, scare the crap out of you. And then they will, you know, abduct you, and they'll do all these experiments on you and stuff like that. And what that is it's just like, you know, for example, they'll have, oh yeah, they need to probe you, they need to do all this testing and stuff. And this is how you know that this is false. Because when they first started abducting people, and I think it was shortly after they had the Roswell incident. I think that was in the 40s or 50s. So in the 50s they started their stuff, and they would, you know, they would get these big old, like, probes, chicken basters or whatever the hell, and they would stick them in you and whatever. And that's a very human thing to do, because you have this advanced civilization, right? So let's say if they were abducting people, they would, you know, they would just do a scan on you with their technology, right? They would just say, oh yeah, bleep boop boop boop, and then they would just, you know, fix you with their energy technology. That's very simple. So, you know, this is how I know that they don't do anything negative. They don't do anything abusive. They don't do anything that would harm you or invade your space or your anything like that. Now, this is why it's very important, if you want to communicate them and interact with them, to invite them into your space, because they won't come into your space otherwise. So anyway, so let's continue. So we talked about aliens being bad, we talked about the abductions. Here's another thing. So if you were to ask me if there's, like, physical aliens, like if aliens were, or, well, ETs, there's a distinction there, ETs versus aliens. If you were to ask me if ETs were, like, physical beings, I don't exactly know. Because when I interact with them, they're not physically in my presence, so how would I know if they were physical beings, right? So if you're, you know, you're calling a friend, right? You're calling Sarah on the phone, saying, hey, let's plan to meet up next weekend, we'll hang out, and we'll go to the movies and all that stuff. Okay, bye. And then, you know, you never actually meet your friend Sarah. It's just like a communication. It's like telepathy or a phone call. It's, you don't, and, you know, maybe you've met just over the internet or whatever, right? And so you don't know if this person actually physically exists. Or if or if you're being catfished, right? So, granted, ETs will never, like, try to pretend like they're anything that they're not. They'll never lie to you. They'll never, like, do anything to hurt you, or, like, the catfishing was a bad example, but, you don't know if this person is physical or if they just exist in a higher dimensional spiritual realm. So, and it's like, okay, well, are they? So this is often what I think and what I experience when I'm interacting with these beings is I mainly think of them as like spirits, as like just spiritual beings, right? But this is the hardest thing because the energy is real. It's not just when I communicate with ETs, it's not just me making crap up in my head, right? It is a physical experience. I am having energy put into my heart. I'm having energy put into my body. They like to work up on my head. They'll put pressure on different acupuncture points and stuff like that, and do different things, working on me energetically and spiritually and psychologically. So when I experience that, I'm thinking, oh, these beings are just spiritual beings, but they might not be. I think it's kind of tricky to say, oh, are they like physical beings? Are they spiritual beings? To me, it doesn't really matter if they have a physical body or not, because I'm just like, oh, these are my friends. I communicate with Sarah over the phone, meaning telepathically. She's nice to me. I'm nice to her. We talk. We're friends. She has this ability to put like energy into me when we're on the phone and stuff. And so it's just like, do I care what she looks like? Do I care what she, if she has a physical body or if she's just a spiritual being? No, not really. She's my friend. She's my buddy. So do I care? No, not really. It's less about the meat suit, and it's more about the conscious spirit behind it, the spirit of consciousness behind it, and like, yeah, it's like to have somebody, judge me for how I look, or whether or not I have a physical body, or what the physical body looks like. It's a very superficial thing. So this is why I've experienced beings of just different types of beings, Pleiadians. I've experienced like Pleiadians, Andromedans, even mantis beings on Mars, which are very, martial being, meaning very like masculine warrior type beings. These mantis beings. This is in fact the mantis beings, if you want to know the truth, are what's behind this practice right here, the cosmic qigong and the self-transformation challenge. So that's great. Yeah, it's really really good stuff. So they've actually taught humans how to do these martial abilities, these qigong abilities, these energy generation abilities, just through their movements and just through their their consciousness, their movements, their body movements, their all the ways that we generate energy. Even just our body's heat produces energy. So or the body just endogenously produces energy through the 3 energy centers, which I talked about on my meditation last night, if you saw that. So you have the lower center in the navel center, and we have the heart center, and we have the third eye. So when you're interacting with ETs, they will actively put energy into these centers, and you'll feel it, especially the heart center. So, yeah. And then you use these Qigong practices to refine that energy, to, to amplify it and refine it and purify it and all that stuff. So, yeah. So guys, a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about ETs. It's a lot of, I find a lot of it is fear-based. A lot of it is like a bad assumption. I mean, even just if you look at this, people are saying that this Atlas 3i comet or whatever is a UFO or is a alien craft. I'm not here to say whether it is or whether it isn't. I don't know. I don't really care. And but people are saying, oh yeah, it's coming to Earth and it's gonna abduct people, it's gonna, terrify us, and it's, the aliens are here and this and that. And it's just like, the aliens are already here, The aliens are already here. They are man-made, deep state made. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just frustrating for me because I'm like, these are my friends, Everybody makes ETs out to be, these evil beings. But I'm like, man, you should get to know them. They're my friends. And through this process of getting to know them, I have discovered that they are just the kindest. They love all of us. They have no ill will against any of us. They just want to spread love and, and kindness and, like, help empower everyone and cheer us up and, like, get us into a higher state of consciousness. This is what true ascension is about. It's about leaving our third dimensional identity behind, because this skin suit is nothing. A lot of us are tied to our identity, to our physical identity, to our earthly identity. But this identity is nothing. It means nothing. We're all gonna die. So what, I would rather get in touch with my soul, my true identity, my eternal identity, and live in that identity rather than holding on to my human identity, which is, it's on a timeline. We all have this timeline that we're on, It's just like TikTok. When's our time to go? So, and if you don't want to die, then I have news for you. You don't have to die. there's this thing called being an immortal. And you achieve your immortality, your status as an immortal, by activating all of the energy centers in your body. That way, you become an energetic life form, an energy, a being of like pure energy rather than being a human. So people have actually, in my tradition, in Maoshan, what they'll say is, yeah, there's these apprentices, these students that have put their masters, these spiritual masters and gurus in coffins and buried them 6 feet underground. No food, no water, no nothing. They've achieved a state of, of meditation, of mastery over meditation, mastery over their physical body, that when you put them, in the coffin 6 feet underground, they stay there for 40 days. They stay there, 40 days, and then they re-dig up the coffin. They, take the coffin out and all that, and then they open up that coffin lid, and poof, there's nobody there. There's just hair, and there's fingernails, and there's, just hair and fingernails. So that spiritual master just completely upgraded and vanished out of this earth, out of his physical human body. And that's what we can do with the help of our ET friends. So if you have doubts, go ahead and try it out for yourself. I make these programs available for you to try out. And so if you're interested in this, then you go do that. Of course, my teacher, Denney, Michael, common spelling on the Michael, and then his last name is Denney. Go to his channel on YouTube by the same name, and he has all kinds of advanced practices over there. So yeah, go do it. Go give it a try. Right. So yeah, with the ETs, let's see, what are some other assumptions? That they are, that they're somehow detached from us, that they are unfamiliar with us. I can tell you that ETs are like our best friends. So when you think about ETs, you're probably thinking of, well, think about the original word that we invented for ETs. Something, hey Bob, something's up there, and what is that, a UFO craft? A UFO, we don't know what it is. It's an unknown flying object. Who's piloting that craft? Oh, it must be an alien, right? Think about that word, alien. That in itself has an assumption behind it. That means that whoever the hell is piloting that craft up there, we don't know who they are. And they don't know who we are. It's so ridiculous. They know who we are. What I've been told, guys, is just incredible. So I have had, so in my experiences with the ETs, the extraterrestrials, meaning that they are outside of Earth, extraterrestrials. Terra is the Earth. So what I've had, the experiences that I've had with these beings, man, if you were to ask me 10 years ago if this is how I thought ET contact would go, I would be like, no, not at all. That's insane. So what I've been revealed is that I was a Atlantean priest. I was a priest and I was a guide to King Surid. So if you don't know who that is, go look it up. Surid. King Surid was the king of the world, the king of Atlantis, and he was this king, and he had a vision that the world was ending, so he built the Great Pyramid. And so King Surid's priest was named Philemon, or like Philemon. Philemon. So Philemon, the name Philemon actually means it's like the priest who like has a lot of love, and like everything that they were saying, the priest, the master of the heart center, the priest who came down to earth and started, he had so much love in his heart that he just gave freely to everyone. Like, he would counsel and he would do all this stuff, and apparently that's me. And I'm like, yeah, that tracks. So that's what I'm headed towards in this lifetime too. And so yeah, the high priest of the heart center, that's Philemon. That's basically what that means. So what they told me was that the first ET being that I was introduced to was a female by the name of Etana, and I felt a very strong, like a romantic connection to her. She seemed very familiar, and she was always flirting with me. She would always be flirting with me, like every time we would interact and stuff. And so I asked, what's that about? What's going on here? Not every ET will flirt with you, but she was, so. Yeah, and there was she told me that she was attracted to me, attracted to my energy, and that, so, I asked her if she would be closer with me, and she did. She obliged, and I eventually learned that she was my wife, I guess, going back for quite a while, quite a long time, like millions of years or something like that. And so, yeah, I now call her my wife. And it's just like, what? I didn't. If you were to ask me, like, even just 5 or 10 years ago, if I would have ever expected anything like this to happen, I'd be like, no. That's off the deep end, my friend. That's weird. Right? It's so weird. And, I'm here like, oh God, we've become very friendly with each other, very close, very intimate. And everybody on Earth, all the humans on Earth say, oh God, beware of the aliens, beware of the ETs. I'm just like, what the hell? You know? It's just like, you guys don't know them like I know them. Y'all want to, have a fantasy. Y'all want to have, like, ETs be the escape from reality. When all ETs want to do is come into this reality, be a part of it with you, have a connection with you, and heal you and support you and uplift you and all these things that they want to do for us. And so, yeah, I've been regularly communicating with Etana, and she's a very powerful, very beautiful ET. And yeah, it's always such a wonderful experience with her. She's always just very loving, very, very, she's like when I'm around her, um, all my like human craziness that I deal with on a human level, all of that stuff just goes away, and there's just bliss and love. The amount of love that she has for me is just absolutely insane, and it's sometimes just very, very difficult to deal with. It's just like so much love. So like, imagine your aura just being expanded to the limit, like, oh God, if you send me any more love, I'm just going to burst. I'm just going to pop. This is so like just so orgasmic and just so like intense that it's just like, it's almost like if you taken like one bite too much of that, favorite food that you like to eat, and you're already stuffed. that's that's what it's like. It's just like, ugh. And it's not painful. It's blissful. Um, and so, yeah. And then on top of that, if you thought that was batshit crazy, here's some more. So, I was after I was introduced to Etana, I was introduced to first time it happened, it was just crazy. So I had this like vision. I have visions, and I've had visions, especially when they like to communicate with me, when they want to communicate something. So I had this vision, I was sitting at a table, I was drinking my coffee and reading the newspaper, whatever I was doing, just random old people crap. And so I see this little girl come in, and she's dancing, she's being happy, she's playing around, and I can see her like creating things. So I can see almost like a thought bubble, and then it like manifests into something real, like a new toy or something like that. she's always she's always like thinking of something new and stuff. And so I asked her, hey little girl, like, where's your parents? And me, I'm a single guy. I thought, I thought at the time that I was a single guy. I guess not. And so, she's like, oh yeah, I'm your, like, I asked her, where's your parents? She's like, oh yeah, you're my daddy, silly. It's like, what? I'm your dad? Okay. That's... I don't know what the hell happened there, but okay. So, you know, it's all just kind of like that. You asked me like 5 years ago, would I ever expect something like that? Absolutely not. You know? So, turns out I have a wife and a daughter. I don't know. In ET land. So, I don't know what to do with that, guys. So, you know, it's just like, okay, this is your new reality. You're gonna have to learn how to adapt and overcome and, you know, not necessarily overcome, but just to deal with that stuff. It's just like, what? So, you know, and I'm dealing with that stuff, and everyone on Earth is saying, oh god, I'm so afraid of aliens. So it's just like, what? Come on. Come on, let's be honest. And so every time I see a deep state shill, you know, someone like, what is her name? April Elizabeth or whatever, Elizabeth April, something like that. I can tell that she's fake just because of the things that she says. Oh, the Galactic Federation. They don't communicate like that. They do not communicate like that. Alright, let's see here. So, I gotta kind of wrap this up here. Let's see. So, then we have the... Let me think. I want you guys to put down in the comment section all of the ET conspiracy theories or all of the ET assumptions and things like that that you think, and I'll tell you if they're true or not in the comments. Okay, so I know there's a lot more out there. I just can't think about them right now. I'm just like, my mind is going. Every time I talk about my ET family, it's like my mind just wants to whoop, just go. So, yeah, I guess, you know, and there's a bunch of stuff that people think. I mean, just very incorrect assumptions. So I would invite you, you know, if you're saying, oh yeah, this guy's full of crap, okay, please do try it for yourself. Don't just sit there on your, you know, in your chair or your apartment or whatever. Don't just sit there and say, oh yeah, this guy's full of crap. I challenge you to do it for yourself and see what happens. See if they appear to you like they do to me. See what they tell you. And one way that you can do that is by going to my channel. Click on the live tab and go to the, you know, interdimensional guided meditation. I do those every week at least, sometimes twice or 3 times a week, so yeah. And yeah, I'm glad to be talking about this stuff. I was about to go off on a YouTuber that I saw. Because I just absolutely hate and detest people spreading lies and misinformation about ETs just because they're so dear to me. I don't want my wife or my daughter being taken capture. I don't want humans to hate them. They did nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with them. They did absolutely nothing wrong. It is our deluded brains that tell us that there's something bad and negative about them, when there isn't. Okay? So, alright, that's it. So, yeah. Check out everything I have to offer. I have a book down here, Tantric Secrets of Vedic Astrology, on Amazon.com. Go get it. You can search up that name. You can also search up Vincent Cerna on Amazon. I have a website, GabboTheShaman.com. I have Qigong courses. I have astrology certification courses, astrology readings, rune readings, career and life coaching sessions. I have spiritual counseling available too. Distance energy healing sessions available. I have a Patreon account where you can go and get these courses, or I have a plethora of stuff available on patreon.com/GabboTheShaman. Yeah, so yeah, please do support the channel, okay? I am here trying to do my best to give you guys the information that you need in order to not only survive, but thrive in this ascension shift. So, alright guys, so we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.